There we go. And it's heat, humidity, and severe weather. And we'll be talking about that, getting closer to the Labor Day holiday weekend. And we'll be talking about that too, as well as the lack of activity in the tropics. So, all these subject matters will be front and center tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which, of course, is brought to you by Tempest by WeatherFlow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the descriptor to this podcast. The coupon code is,
Summer 2024.
if you use it, you'll get.
10 big % off.
And I got to 90 today. But funny about it, it doesn't, I will stand by this. Um, it was 90. I think the dew point was probably around 60-ish or 61-ish. Even when I had days where the dew point's been higher, it just, the humidity just does not feel the same as it does in in urban areas. It's just it's totally different.
Well, you're out in the country and you're at 2,200 feet.
Yeah, it
So,
does. That does help.
yeah, it does.
Uh,
So,
by the way, I don't know if I mentioned this yesterday, but no squirrels. They have, in the last week and a half, they have disappeared. No squirrels anywhere.
is
And
JJ by that?
well, I'm happy because he's not going crazy every 5 minutes, but no squirrels, very few birds. That's another thing that's happened. I don't know if it's maybe because of it's going to be hot here for the next couple of days. So I don't know if that's it. But I'm just pointing that out that the wildlife here seems to have gone quiet in the last couple of days.
Well, maybe it's a bit of an intermission in the final days before the unofficial end of summer this weekend, or on Monday with the arrival of Labor Day. I don't know.
That could be. Maybe they were on holiday.
Yeah.
Welcome everybody to tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. Big hellos to everybody on the chat board. To those of you who are not on the chat board but lurking in the background, we love having you too. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Turn your notifications on so you don't miss us. The usual schedule is Sunday through Thursday at 7:35, with off days Friday and Saturday, unless there's a storm around, in which case we'll let you know. We'll give you plenty of notice that we're adding an extra show or two. We won't be doing that this Friday and Saturday. Also, there'll be no show this coming Sunday. Okay, so we'll be on through Thursday, and then no show through Sunday. We're going to take Sunday off. It's the Labor Day weekend. There's not any much weather going on. So then we'll be back on Monday evening. Um, we will resume our regularly scheduled broadcasts Monday evening. My audio is down, is low. Okay. Yeah, I noticed my thing is,
Seem to
hold
be
on, let me
coming in with me. If that makes any difference or whatever, but
right. Hold on a second. Let me see if this is let me just fix this. Maybe this will help. Uh, I'm just changing one of the audio settings, so that should be hopefully better. Yes, better. Thank you. Okay, thanks for letting me know. I appreciate it. I don't know, some setting got changed, as as it often does. So, we got it was kind of very warm to hottish today for Eastern PA to Southern New England, and tomorrow looks like the one really hot day this week. But after tomorrow, we've got onshore flow for Thursday and Friday, so that's going to keep temperatures down. And even though we have a cold front approaching on Saturday, the temperatures may come up a bit, but there might be some cloud issues to fight. And then after that, I'm thinking Sunday might actually wind up being a bit warmer than Saturday, because there might be more sun on Sunday than there will be on Saturday, depending on the timing of these next storms. And then it looks like a really beautiful day setting up for Labor Day.
Well, there's a big high, excuse me, a big high pressure system, very extensive, and we talked about this yesterday, that may very well bring a full week of beautiful weather next week. And that's when everybody usually takes off, right? The week that school begins again. And a lot of people who probably had their vacations in August have to go back to work right after Labor Day. But if you are lucky enough to have next week off, if you happen to be somebody like Joe or myself who are retired or semi retired, get out and enjoy it because it looks like it's going to be a great week next week.
Yep, and even longer term, it looks like we're in this September. I saw Tony Gigi put up a post today saying that this September is not going to be like last September, opining that we seem to be in a pattern that's going to favor weather fronts coming through and high pressure cells from Canada coming through on a semi-regular basis. So that's going to help keep temperatures down.
Well, it may very well. I see on Dr. Judah Cohen's latest tweet that he says that while it looks like North America, as we move into September, will be trending toward cooler temperatures, Eurasia will be underneath a very stubborn heat dome. And hey, by the way, Joe, a rare widespread rainfall anomaly is forecast to unfold across the Sahara Desert of all places, indicating a most unusual state of the atmosphere. I mean, I didn't even think that it did rain in the Sahara during the summer months, but apparently it looks like there may be some precipitation for the camels in the coming days.
And and also the resurrection plant. Have you ever seen the resurrection plant? It looks like a ball of twigs, and
Yeah.
it can lay dormant for years, sometimes decades, if it's in a spot that doesn't get any rainfall. So it waits for rainfall and it comes back to life. I mean, it only lives for maybe, a few days, but it shoots out leaves and it produces seeds and flowers, and then it dies again, and then it goes dormant again for like 10 years. And you find them in
Almost
the
like
Sahara,
it almost
you
sounds like
find
the
them in the Sahara Desert.
it's almost like it sounds like the mythical bird, the phoenix, which lives for 500 years and then it builds a big stack of twigs and somehow manages to light a fire, and then the bird jumps into it, burns up, and then from the ashes spring a new bird, a new phoenix, which then lives for another 500 years.
Yeah. Well, nature has there's so many marvels. If you watch David Attenborough as much as I do. We've got heat advisories, a few counties with excessive heat warnings in and around Philadelphia. And otherwise, it's just all setting up for what's going to be a hot day tomorrow. We've got heat advisories today and probably for one more day from Ohio west into Illinois, waiting for this cold front that's going to be dropping southward from the Great Lakes and from eastern Canada. And out in the west, it's issues with dry conditions with red flag warnings in southern Wyoming and also in parts of southwest Montana and eastern Idaho and in eastern parts of Washington state. But, we don't really have much in the way of, well, we do have some severe weather issues, but we don't really have certainly the tropics are not providing areas with big rainfalls anywhere because we're not even seeing it. There's nothing going on in the tropics as far as tropical storms are concerned. Got a couple of counties in New Mexico with some flash flood watches from thunderstorms, and that really is about it. And when you look at the satellite, it was another really pretty much a nice day, sunshine wise, from Maine down to Georgia. Some storms tonight in Florida on the west coast. You can see the lightning strikes there along parts of the Alabama Gulf Coast, seeing some lightning strikes there, and along the coastal bend of Texas. A little bit of moisture there in the western Gulf of Mexico. But much of the country, when you look at the satellite today, had very little in the way of cloud cover. We've got some big thunderstorms going through southeastern Michigan at the moment. And that's our weather system that's going to be approaching for tomorrow. Now, I noticed, Joe, that It's kind of a foot race between when the frontal boundary arrives and where, because SPC, and we'll show that in a moment, actually kind of shifted the severe weather risk area a little bit further to the south for tomorrow, rather than expanding it up to the north. I was wondering how do you feel emotionally about that?
We being New York and the Hudson Valley, we were not squarely in the middle of that slight risk of severe weather, but we were pretty close to it yesterday. And you're absolutely right, Joe. We went from being within the slight zone, then this morning we were kind of like on the fringe of the slight zone, and now you're right. Now we're in the marginal zone. It seems that the folks at SPC are trying to push the worst weather, the most severe conditions, further to the south. And looking at some of the short-term guidance models today, I was kind of surprised. They have hardly anything for us in terms of showers and storms for tomorrow or even into tomorrow evening. There's still the possibility that we might see something, but if you want to go by face value, some of these models are saying that this front is going to go on by and there's not going to be a darn thing associated with it.
Yeah, I
And
mean, I saw the same thing, and even the European today, for example, has nothing as far as shower and thunderstorm activity for late tomorrow anywhere, even where they have the severe weather risks up.
I mean, a couple of days ago, if you had asked what Wednesday looked like, I would have said, well, afternoon and evening, a very distinct threat of showers and scattered storms, some of which could carry with them damaging winds, hail, you go a whole 9 yards. And now it's looking like if things break just just right, that maybe the European will be right. We might not see anything. I'm not going to go that far, though. I think it's always prudent. I would invoke Antoine's rule. Tex Antoine, the weather forecaster on New York television during the 1940s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. He was not a meteorologist, but over that length of time, he learned enough weather to sometimes realize that when the Weather Service was calling for no precipitation with a frontal passage, sometimes you get precipitation. Sometimes you do see showers break out ahead of and along a weather front, even when the forecast was calling for dry weather. And so he would tell his audience, well, officially, there isn't supposed to be any rain, but a front is a front is a front. So tomorrow, yes, there's a front approaching. A front is a front. Might as well mention something for it. And that's why late tomorrow and tomorrow evening, I would still mention the possibility, however small, of a shower or maybe a gusty thunderstorm.
The radar tonight, and again, you can see there's a concentration of thunderstorms moving now into northwestern Ohio out of southeastern Michigan. We've got a couple of a severe thunderstorm warning that's popped up there. Also, a cluster in Missouri, in northeast Missouri, where we have more than several severe thunderstorm warnings going on. Another cluster over Kansas City, with a little severe thunderstorm warning box there. And to the west of Kansas City, we've got a cluster of showers and storms that are sort of creeping their way to the northeast. In the St. Lawrence Valley and north and west of there, across southeastern Canada, a rather large area of showers and storms there, and also seeing some showers and a few thunderstorms up in northeastern Minnesota, moving into over lakes. Actually, I'm sorry, northeastern Minnesota, and moving northeastward to the Canada side. And we've got some showers and downpours in clusters from the Texas coast or offshore the Texas coast, and then some areas inland to the south of Dallas Fort Worth, to the northwest and northeast of San Antonio, and to the north of Houston. Also, some downpours and showers in parts of central and southern New Mexico and into southwestern Arizona. Storm Prediction Center has two working severe thunderstorm watches, one in northeastern Illinois and northwest Indiana, and the other one in a narrow area across northern Ohio and into northwestern Pennsylvania. That's one of the smallest severe thunderstorm in terms of width. That's probably one of the smallest severe thunderstorm watches I've ever seen. But they certainly put one up. Now tomorrow, as Joe so eloquently pointed out, the marginal risk is from eastern Long Island to about Poughkeepsie, to the New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York State border, then kind of goes straight west from there. You've got the slight risk from Sandy Hook to just north of between Allentown and Scranton, and then going into northwest PA, and then covering the state of Ohio, and then swinging back around northern West Virginia, northernmost Virginia, Maryland, and northernmost Delaware in the slight risk. The marginal risk goes a little bit further south. And also, we have a slight to marginal risk in the Dakotas. And in that area, we have a small 2% tornado risk. And day three, which is Thursday through Friday, nothing in the Northeast, a marginal risk in North Carolina and Southern Virginia, and a marginal risk from Kansas northward into Minnesota, with a slight risk in southern Minnesota, the western half of Iowa, and extreme eastern Nebraska. So everything seems to be rocking and rolling here as far as weather systems doing what they're supposed to do. And as far as rainfall is concerned, very little if you go from the Rockies west. So we've got inch and a half plus amounts in West Texas. We've got 3 inch plus amounts along the Texas Gulf Coast and the Louisiana Gulf Coast. A big cluster of moisture there. The southwest coast of Florida up to a few inches over the next 7 days. Uh, half an inch to an inch and a half up and down the Appalachians to the Carolinas into Virginia and eastern Pennsylvania, and generally a quarter to a half an inch across the Northeast, 3/4 of an inch to an inch and a half in the upper Midwest, and some 3/4 to an inch and a half amounts on the Canada side of New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. So, it's really about cold fronts. And there you have it. Here's the GFS, which, was really kind of going bonkers. I mean, it still does to an extent, but more after 7 or 8 o'clock tomorrow night, where it starts to develop thunderstorms in Pennsylvania and central and South Jersey. Joe, I think what's happening is this high to the north is coming down a little faster, and the wind there's a the winds go northeast probably sooner than the models were picking up on across New York State and across New England, and maybe even down to about northern New Jersey and New York City. So the warm sector kind of gets pushed southward, and then you start to see the thunderstorm development be. And this probably is the reason why the thunderstorm development SPC doing what they did, which is to shift everything further south. It looks like that high is building in a little faster.
Well, on my Facebook forecast for tomorrow, this is again for the Hudson Valley. I have winds southwest at 5 to 10 miles an hour, but becoming later tomorrow west northwest and then turning into the north tomorrow night and northeast on Thursday. And Joe, I have temperatures tomorrow generally ranging from 88 to 92 across the Hudson Valley. And I have that dropping by Thursday to 75 to 78. So I've got a temperature drop of something like 13 to 15 degrees between what we'll be experiencing tomorrow versus what we'll be seeing on Thursday. Obviously, Thursday looks to be cooler and again, as you point out, less humid as well.
And tomorrow, if central and South Jersey, southern Pennsylvania, and points southward into Virginia are going to get up into the middle 90s. That's where that's where the real heat is going to be, if you want to call it real heat. But it's still
And
going to
that's and that's where and that's where the slight risk of severe weather tomorrow again now is south of the New York metropolitan area. So it would make sense that if you wanted, I don't know why, but if you wanted to see severe weather, it would likely be in the place where you just mentioned, Joe. Temperatures are going to be really hot in the middle 90s.
I'm just looking at the upper air, and we're sort of on the there's a ridge off the southeast coast, and that's right there, and we're sort of on the edge of that ridge here for tomorrow, and then gradually as we move into Thursday, starts to flatten out a little bit and weaken, and that allows you can see all that blue approaching Minnesota and Lake Superior and down to eastern Canada. That's a nice looking trough that's going to swing into the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states for Sunday and Monday. Uh, but we'll probably have to wait for the real dew point drop will probably occur Sunday night, late Sunday, Sunday night, and Monday. We'll have to wait for, there'll probably be a lead front Saturday night and then maybe a little secondary front that comes through late Sunday afternoon and evening. I still think much of the time, I think Saturday, pretty much Saturday day side won't be raining. Okay. So maybe there'll be some showers and storms Saturday night. And then again, maybe a chance late on Sunday. But then with this trough coming in the way it is, you can have a nice shot of cool air that's going to build in. And going into next week, I mean, the upper air is not especially cool, but it's not warm either. And this particular Model 1, Joe, take a look at this big cutoff that it wants to drop down into the Great Lakes along about September 8th or 9th and then just swings it over into the eastern part of the United States. So you kind of don't want a tropical storm in the Bahamas if this upper air is correct, come the weekend of the 10th of 11th. But I will also say that, on the very next run, we may have a different look. But still a rather dynamic look for early September to have a pattern like this.
Well, didn't you say last week that the pattern suddenly is going into one where we're not seeing ridging lasting too long? What we're
Right,
seeing are what we're just looking at here. I mean, short waves, and I think the thing for the 9th and the 10th is a little overdone. But I mean, you get these things dropping down out of Canada. Certainly, it doesn't look like you're going to have any protracted or prolonged period of hot weather. Tomorrow, maybe one of the few hot weather days left in the coming days and weeks if this
right. And,
pattern.
and the 12Z run, by the way, has nothing like that. It's a completely different idea. The 12Z run also has some kind of tropical system way out in the Atlantic that doesn't even make it to 60 degrees west before it recurves. And I have to tell you, here we are. It's the 27th of August. Now, follow me on this in terms of the logic, and I'll bring up NHC's tropical weather outlook just to show you that the only thing they have outlined is an area in the tropical Atlantic, moving west northwest. They say, you know, an area of low pressure could form in the central portion of the tropical Atlantic in a few days. Thereafter that, the environmental conditions appear generally favorable for some slow development of the system this weekend into early next week. I'm not going to say it can't happen, but um, the the operational models are not picking it up. The ensemble models are doing all sorts of weird things in the longer range with tropical systems, but they just don't seem to be happening. But I'll say this, Joe. I mean, here we are, the 27th of August. Now, the top number on the Weather Service, the Hurricane Center, in the forecast that they gave out, they gave a range of 17 to 24. Okay. So if you're going to hit that top number of 24, I would have thought that you should have had at least 8 or 9 storms out of the way by the end of August. And, obviously that's not going to happen. So let's assume that nothing happens through August 31st, in which case we're stuck at 5. Uh, to get to 17, you'd have to have 6 storms during the month of September and 6 storms combined for October and November. Now, that's to get to 17. That's still doable. All right. That's still doable. But if you're going to see numbers that get up to 24, I mean, I just don't know how you can do it now because you've kind of lost, in a sense, you've lost the month of August to put down at least 3 or 4 storms. That's going to be very difficult. It's going to be very difficult to hit that top number, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I would absolutely agree with you. I don't think we're going to be seeing very much activity at all in either the Caribbean or the Atlantic basin through the first week of September. Maybe after the first week, there might be something. If you looked at this morning's 12Z GFS run, they had something over the central Atlantic that slowly began to rev up. And
Right.
by the time we got to by the time we got to the 12th of September, it looks like either a strong tropical storm or hurricane, but it's way, way out. It's even so far out that even Bermuda wouldn't have to worry about it. But yeah, we're going to have to see things rev up really fast and see a lot happen in the coming weeks ahead for us to see even an above near normal, if not above normal,
Right.
hurricane storm season.
Now we just had this flare up here in the Pacific for the last 10 days or so that has brought them up to the H storm, which is Hector. One is that's a they're on the storm that went south of Hawaii with the name One was well, I think that's how you pronounce it. Was from the Central Pacific uh, Hurricane Center. They have a separate list when it forms in their basin. So that's a list that just goes round and round. They don't start at A every year. They wherever they left off from the last one, that's where they start off with the next one. But the Pacific, normally when the Eastern Pacific is busy, the Atlantic side tends to get quiet. So the Eastern Pacific now is going to get quiet. Uh, Starting once these storms get out of the way, and the models are not showing anything developing in the next 2 weeks on the Pacific side. So you might expect the Atlantic to pick up if that's the case. And if you look at the Atlantic on the GFS, anyway, the European didn't really show much of anything. And this particular run, it does have something in about 8 or 9 days that forms in the central tropical Atlantic that moves northwestward, and then just like I said, never really makes it even to 60 degrees west. It just recurves, and it also tries to form something off the southeast coast that goes out east northeast. So maybe that becomes a tropical storm of some kind. But uh, there's nothing imminent as far as the tropics are concerned on the Atlantic side. So we're going to have a quiet Labor Day holiday weekend from that respect. And then when we look at here's our front for tomorrow. We'll push this big high is going to build southward. So I'm thinking for
We're
many
not getting
areas,
we're not seeing any maps, Joe.
oh, sorry, which somebody had
Sorry.
told, wish I knew that sooner.
Rich
Um,
Wojnarowski put a note up there. Yeah. So
I didn't see it. Um, anyhow, uh, here's the GFS with the front for tomorrow, and we also have some weather going. Oh, there's even a little bit of snow there up in Canada. See it? See that little blue
a little
there
blue.
north of Idaho? So that moves along. This high, I'm thinking Thursday and Friday temperatures are probably not going to get much out of the 70s on either day, and then we'll turn more southerly over the weekend ahead of another front. This is Saturday evening with showers and storms inland before sunset, and then they move overhead during Saturday night. They're just about done by Sunday morning. Then you have this sort of secondary front that may or may not do anything, and then in comes the big high for Labor Day. And yeah, Joe, I mean that high is going to sit around for a good chunk of next week, and it's going to be like the one from last week where it's just going to overwhelm dry air that's going to be very difficult to dislodge because uh, the old frontal boundary is going to be off the southeast coast and over Florida, and the dew points are only when they do start coming up, they're just going to come up very very slowly. And here's the dew point loop for next week. I mean, you got dry air that spreads all the way down into the southeast and Appalachians and down into the deep south. I'm already on Sunday, September the 8th, and we're looking at still relatively low dew points here with you know wow, it goes almost right through the starting from Monday. It goes, which is Monday is what, second? Monday's the second, going all the way out to the 11th. You still got dew points that don't even make it back to 60. Well,
So
you're from our lips to God's ears, Joe.
well, we'll see. We'll just see if the one thing I don't think is going to change is the fact that it really does not look like the tropical storm or hurricane season is going to be all that active. Maybe if it increases, I think it'll be either near normal or below normal, as opposed to the above normal forecasts that were out and about, and especially so, the doom and gloom forecasts that were being issued back in April and May and June, when the thought was that there'd be a potent La Nina combined with very warm ocean temperatures. And you're right, you mentioned this earlier in the show, Joe. By this time, we should have had, or we should have been landing on the ninth or 10th letter of the alphabet for it to be a truly active season. And we're only up to Ernesto, A, B, C, D, E. We're only up to 5 storms so far.
David Scott, to answer your question, I think most of Saturday dayside and probably most of Sunday dayside will be rain free from what I'm seeing. Maybe some late day or even, maybe some very late afternoon or early evening scattered thunderstorms that develop a little bit ahead of the main activity that looks like it's going to come through Saturday night. In which case, the day sides of both days won't really be certainly Saturday day side, I would think, especially if you're going, you know, New York City north and east, probably won't see anything during the day side on Saturday.
Yeah.
The only caveat in that for Friday, the flow is going to be onshore. So then you start to have to deal with overnight clouds that develop, and do the clouds break apart? Do you get some fog that develops with that as well? So that's one thing to consider. It may not be picture perfect, but it's definitely not going to. The weekend is definitely not going to be a washout. All right, let's do a little Briller Jeopardy here. We've been doing where foreign cities was the theme, and that continues to be the theme today, Joe. So we're going to start with Reykjavik.
Reykjavik.
Reykjavik, Iceland. Yes.
Well, you know, they're surrounded by water. There were 3 spots. I think we had Oslo the other day, and I went much too cool. I'm gonna say 69 degrees.
Yeah, that's way too high.
Oh,
Vincent Croce is and Coin Pig are one's a little too high and one's a little too low. Vincent Croce's at 58, Coin Pig is at 53. So it's in there. Rich Rothmansky, you're very close. Very close. Chuck Cardillo, you're getting closer, but Rich Rothmansky is very close with 52. The average high, Joe, is 53. Oh, I'm sorry. My, I got to clean my glasses. Uh, I take that back. Uh, Vincent Croce, Latex Dreams, Patrick Darcy, Coin Pig, Chuck Cardillo, all saying double nickels, Joe, and the answer is double nickels.
and there you go.
Rome, Rome in Italy,
What did we
which
have
is
yesterday?
we
Naples.
had
Naples.
Naples in Italy, which is in the
Right.
south.
Right.
Rome is a little bit further north, northwest actually. Rome.
All right. Well, let's see. What could that possibly be? 84.
It's a little low. We have I'll give credit to Jason Fox, Mike Waterhouse, and they both said 88. And Rich Rothmansky says 89, and the answer is indeed 89. 89 for Rome. Okay, so now let's go to Sweden. We're going to go to Sweden. Stockholm, Sweden.
Sweden. 69.
Joe, you can, after two horrible misses, you should ring the bell for yourself because, yes, the answer is 69.
Thank God.
The next one is Warsaw, Poland. Warsaw, Poland.
um, 77.
That's a pretty good guess. Mike Waterhouse nails it though, 74. So did Chasing
Chasing water.
Waterfalls,
Chasing waterfall.
74. And
Remember there was
Jason
an
Fox.
remember there was an insurance company named Warsaw,
Yeah,
and their and the
WAUSAU.
and the commercials that they used to run, they'd have somebody stepping up to a microphone to give what everybody thought was going to be a long speech or whatever, and the only thing that the guy said was Warsaw, and then he would walk off the set, and people would look at each other and start applauding. Remember that?
Yeah, I remember. The last one tonight before we get to the bonus is Zurich, Switzerland. Zurich, Switzerland.
But what did we say just now for Sweden?
For Sweden, for Stockholm was 69.
So it would probably be close to that, I would think. Maybe a touch
Well,
more.
Switzerland is not that
How
close to
about,
Sweden.
how about 70?
You're too low. You're too low.
All right.
Mike Waterhouse at 77. You're very close. You're in the land of snakes. Vincent Croce, you're very close at 75. That makes you in the land of snakes too. So if it's not 77 and it's not 75, the answer is
76.
yes, 76. Now here's the bonus question. You ready?
Yes.
Now I have to see if I can pronounce this correctly. It's USHUAIA. I have no idea how to pronounce it, but I'll put it on the chat board so you guys can um, pretend that you're not going to Google this one. Um, so I have no idea how to pronounce that, and it's in Argentina.
I know that well. We
Okay, you
almost
just
our ship to Antarctica almost left from, and I still don't know. I was almost down there, and I don't know how to pronounce it either, Joe.
Ushuaia, Ushuaia,
Whatever.
uh, Ushuaia. I'm just reading it across. Anyway, remember it's winter time there. So what do you think the average high is?
Oh God. I don't know. 44.
That's a pretty good guess. And Rich Rothmansky at 43 is a pretty good guess too, but believe it or not, those are actually a little too high.
Yeah,
uh,
it's way. I mean, it's all the way down near the bottom of South America. So
yeah, it's actually I'm gonna just 40. Mike Waterhouse just got a 41. Chuck Cardillo 41. 41, Joe, is the average high in however you say it in Argentina.
yeah.
Well,
So that's why you.
that
That's
was
why
kind of interesting.
you go in December when it's noticeably warmer because it's just the start of summer down there at that time of the
Oh,
year.
I know it is. All right, I think we can wrap it up. I had to go to the dentist today to get my teeth cleaned, so I'm a little tired because I was the first appointment of the day. I had to be there at 7:30. And anyway, um, unless you have anything to add, because I don't.
I don't either. We'll see how things work out tomorrow and whether or not we see any thunderstorms popping up or whether or not we get through the day and evening tomorrow with nothing and everything passes to our south. We'll see.
We'll see. Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast is brought to you by Tempest by Weatherflow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system and join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the descriptor to this podcast. Use the coupon code,
Summer 2024,
and if you do, you will get
10% off.
okay. We'll see everybody tomorrow night. Just make a notation that this Sunday we will not be on. So we'll be on tomorrow, we'll be on Thursday, but then we will be off Friday, Saturday, and Sunday and back Monday night. So we will see you all tomorrow. Night, night.
Nighty night.